Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Centric. Almost forgot. This being a show I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Mayor of Kingstown, Season 2, Episode 4. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Oh, this is just another stark reminder of, when things can get bad, but things can always get worse, and they typically always do. Man, first and foremost, home dude who found Milo's bonds. Didn't know what it was, but he found like a lockbox and stuff like that. And the moment he was like, I didn't find anything, I stopped because I thought there was trash. He covered it back up with dirt, came back, busted it open later at some point, and it turns out it's all of Milo's bonds. You're like, oh God. And he's like, because his wife's looking it up, like, hey, this is what this is. Even if we, because he was saying like, right, if we even get just a tenth of what these are worth back to us, we'll still be millionaires. I was like, oh, you poor deluded guy. Like, oh man, I was like, that's the thing. It's like, man, this is a lot of money. That's a lot of somebody's money. That's the point. Somebody's going to go looking for that. So that's always the thing of like, cool, you find something like that, you put it back. You know, there's so many movies that are cautionary. There's so many things that are cautionary tales about never touch something like that. Oh, you find a bag of money, you leave it where you found it because you have no idea whose money that is. And someone might come looking for that money. Seeing it time and time and time again. Once again, I'm talking obviously from the perspective of TV shows, but I've watched enough TV shows that if I'm ever in that situation, nope. I'm going to put it back where it is. Or am I going to call the cops? In this situation, I'm like, I don't even know if I even want my name associated with this. Even more so because we know who this is connected to. We know it's connected to Milo. Now, we don't know very much about Milo. We just know he's a criminal that scares the hell out of Mike, you know? So it's like, yeah, like Milo hasn't, like, he's done some stuff, but he hasn't really done anything, but because he's always been behind the shadows, so we haven't really seen what he's fully capable of. I was like, yeah, I don't want no smoke. I don't want any part of that. So the husband tried to get them, he tried to sell them at a pawn shop because the guy's like, yo, you want some drugs or you want this and that? I can hook you up. No. He's like, I know someone who you could go to, but you really don't want to. I was like, are you going to send him to Milo? I was about to say, I was like, that would be ironic. Close enough. Sends him to Joseph. I was like, oh my God, that's just as bad. I mean, it'd be worse if you went directly to Milo, but that's Milo adjacent. It's literally Milo's like number 2 guy. I mean, the way Mike puts it, it's kind of like, well, you think you're number 2 and you're important, but you're replaceable because Milo's out and about. So we don't even know what Milo and Joseph's like reactions really are. Well, to be fair, took enough for him to still be in business with him and good enough with him that he sent Iris his way. So, the poor hell, even Iris said, like, because the guy was like, oh, I've seen Joseph, and she's like, your funeral if you want to. He's that way, and it's just like, yeah, gets the crap beat out of him, and he did the right thing by not telling him like exactly where the bonds are, because that's a guarantee to get you killed. It's like, oh, now you volunteered that information, yeah, you're as good as dead to them, because it's like, we don't need you anymore because you told us what we needed to know. So poor guy. When we see him next, they cut off all his fingers, I think all of them, and also it looked like his throat was slit. Left him not even swimming with the fishes at the bottom, because like that pool scene had me nervous. I was like, oh my God, like this is where my mentality is, because this show has me on edge. I'm like, oh my God, it's gonna be a drive-by. I'm like, are you kidding me? It's a whole bunch of kids. I was like, please don't do it. Oh, I was scared the entire time. I was like, what's gonna happen? Because I was so certain it's gonna pop off. Did not expect to find home dude's body at the bottom. Like I said, I was so certain. I was like, oh God, they're gonna do the most depressing thing ever, and it's gonna be a drive-by, isn't it? But it's like, I mean, it's effed up to say, but I prefer this over a drive-by. Like, I'm glad that it's like, it ended up being like, it sucks for that dude to be dead, but it's like, it's better than what I was imagining that scene was going to turn into. So that's an interesting and complicated development, especially, because the wife ended up like taking the bonds to the police. Luckily, Stevie got to it before anyone else did. So it's like, cool. You keep those hidden. You put them in your trunk or something. We cannot let Milo know these are out and about. That's going to be an issue in its own right. But I think Mike does see this as an opportunity, because I think, well, especially because he still hasn't been able to find Iris. And it's like, well, Milo hasn't directly approached him. Or Milo hasn't even made any contact at all, because Joseph was very cagey around the Milo conversation. So it is going to be a situation of, because he said like, oh, these are baited, so I guess it's more like, well, we have these, we could always use them. This could always be a string we pull on later on, like when it comes to Milo. So we'll see how that turns out. So Stevie's the only one that currently knows about that, so that's interesting. Speaking of the Joseph front, we are catching up with Iris, who no longer has any pills because the lady she was chastising was like, oh, you took my money. It's like, no, your money's most likely upstairs. Like, I don't know if that's like money she was trying to stash away. It's like, no. I would assume that's what that's supposed to be, but it's like, no, whatever money you make, there's no like stashing any money. Your money isn't your money. It's ours. You make money for us, blah, 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 type of thing. So I'm assuming that was supposed to be like extra cash on the side that she made because, you know, they made it clear in season 1, like Iris is really good at what she does. But she also doesn't have any pills either. And the lady was like, yeah, you most likely ended up putting them in your mouth. Like you probably like have been running through them like Tic Tacs and you didn't even realize it. So, and I love that lady who's kind of like, oh, like she's kind of like, once again, the madam in charge being like, oh, like, you kind of have to keep your house in order. And she's like, are you going to be a problem? It's like, yeah, she flipped it. I mean, to be fair, she set Mike up last episode and Iris is none the wiser about that. I also love that Iris is like, hey, how are you? She's like, I'm Iris. He's like, oh, hi, Iris. I'm Mike. And I was like, oh, that's hilarious on many different levels because it's just like, well, obviously there's that, but it's also funny because, obviously Michael is my name too. So it's, I mean, it's a fairly common name, but it's still just kind of like, cool. Just probably just like, you could just tell like she was almost like exasperated by it. Just kind of like, oh, why'd you have to be a Mike? So not just a Michael, a Mike specifically. So him just shortening like that, just kind of, you could tell it's just kind of the irony behind it. I loved it. So there's that development. We catch up a little bit with Miriam. She is now working at, well, I think in this particular case, Ian, as he said, kind of pulled some strings so that she could go to this juvenile place because she wanted to talk to Marco. He's the kid that jumped her last episode. And so she goes there and she talks to him and she wants him to talk back. And it's like, the moment you drop your name, I'm like, how many people are here are actually going to know? But one of the guys is like, oh, I know who you are. I know who your son is. I was like, yeah, Mike's got that big of enough of a reputation. So, but she talked about like the situation she's in. Like, hey, my husband, he was in a prison. He worked at a prison, and and she's like, I've been a part of the prison system, obviously, like working in it for like past 50 years. 3 children. Her husband died in a drive-by. I don't remember if they specified like how he died last season. Maybe they did. I just didn't remember. That plus Mitch's robbery, and even that line I thought was interesting when she was like, I was filled with so much anger. I kind of took it out on my middle child. I was like, yeah, if you remember last season, she was giving Mike all the smoke. Like, Kyle was catching some of that flack, but not nearly as much. Like, Mike was kind of getting... And it was just for her, it's like, right, she after everything you've been through, everything you lost, like, of course you're going to be angry, and you needed an outlet. And for her, it's not until Mike and Kyle were involved with the riot, them coming out of there alive, because for her, it's like, I thought I may never see my boys again. And that would be extra sad, because it's like, right, like, the only family she have left is Tracy and Kyle's child, and I just, which is still something, but it's still just like, right, having, losing all 3 of your boys. Now that'd be a blow I don't know if she'd be able to fully come back from. But for her, it's like all that anger leaked out, and all she had left was thankfulness, And even saying, like, when Marco robbed her, she didn't drop the name, but he's in the back of the prison, the back at the tables, and you can see him kind of like listening to what she's saying. But for her, it's like, he left this, and that, and it's like at the end of the day, for her, it's like, I'm still thankful despite everything. So kind of, trying to, once again, the whole thing is to kind of get them to hold on to hope and be thankful for, and because it's like, right, because other people in there have been in that situation where it's like, yo, what was the first kid, Jacob? I think he said like somebody got shot on like his front porch. He was like right there watching, like, what's it, his grandpa or his father or something die. And then another guy was like, yeah, my sister like got like killed. I don't know if that's kind of in reference to like the bus stop situation, like Home Dude from episode 2 being like, yo, my sister was just at the bus stop and she went around nobody that was banging, and it ended up happening, I mean, as in banging as obviously as gang banging. God, in the obviously the gang mentality, I feel like I have to specify that because I'm like, yeah, that could be like taken so out of context just on its own. Cool, because I also like I made the mistake of like when I talk about sex, I'm like, oh, they banged, but it's also like, yeah, like when you're gang banging, like in a gang related, most people shorten it to banging, so it's like I had to qualify that. I know it's me and my little idiosyncrasies. I was just like, yeah, that could super be taken out of context, so I wanted to kind of clarify that just from my own posterity. So all this stuff is happening at the same time. Then there's the situation with Mike because now that the prison, like what they were kind of setting up last episode, it seems like we're kind of seeing that kind of trickle out where people from Tent City are now being transferred to other prisons, and that's kind of a no-go for Bunny. He was already like, yo, time is ticking, Mike, you need to get me out of here. The time is ticking even more now because like you need, and also like I love that Home Dude was kind of giving Bunny crap. He's like, hey, the fact of the matter is I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna lay in my own bed, I'm gonna get hot put. I'm gonna try to remember, did he say hot or did he say warm? I don't remember the exact word. Just like, yo, I'm gonna get laid. So, but Bunny's like, yeah, don't forget who this is. Like, the fact is that you cause a problem with the plan that Mike's coming up with. You're the one that's gonna have to get down on your skinny knees and start sucking some dick, like, because Mike is gonna bring, I'm just like, it's like, yeah, like, come on. Like, so give me the damn phone so I can talk to Mike. So now Mike's got to stress about that. He tries to go see Evelyn about it. There was that little interaction he had with that lawyer who was talking to the clients. Like, what did I say to you? Every time you open your mouth, you're making yourself like, you're adding like another year to your sentence where he's like, you're making yourself sound guilty. Because even when he was like, thanks, Mike, he was like, what did I just say? Shut your mouth, homie. But Mike goes see Evelyn, which Evelyn's juggling a lot because it's like, neither her nor Kareem gave Mike the heads up, despite both of them being super in the know about what this is. The whole point was, yo, let's get these gang leaders in there. They put everything straight. Then we get them out. And now we're slow rolling this. In fact, the DA is trying to push to like spread everyone out because apparently the bust that wasn't supposed to be like an official thing. It needed to be made official, but it was, it's like there are quotes around the bus. He's trying to take credit for it and he's kind of running with it. And for Mike, it's just like, oh, like that limp dick bastard just wants to pretend like he isn't the limp dick bastard that he is. And he's kind of yelling at Evelyn because for him, it's like, this is going to be a major problem. He's like, you don't know these people like I do. It's like, I know this world. You don't keep that shit inside locked down, it's going to bleed over. And once again, we already had to deal with pandemonium in the aftermath of the riots. Dude, you think things were bad before? Things are going to be doubly bad if we don't fix this situation now. So talks to her, which, like I said, she's juggling a lot because like, hey, they're trying to make somebody take the fall for the riot situation as well as all the deaths that's happened like post riot stuff. And even saying like Robert might be, I think specifically she was even implying like Robert might take the fall in some regards. So there's that. Then there's also the fact is that Mike tried to go to Kareem about it, but Kareem's like, yeah, that was your deal because you didn't let me know what's what. But it's like, no. This isn't for my sake, Kareem. I'm talking about you using your power to slow roll this a little bit because at the very least, if they could slow roll it, it can give Mike more time to find a way because he needed like to force the DA to sign this thing so it could all go through because like the DA had to sign off on it and a judge had to sign off on it before like Bunny and the others could get released, which is complicated too because Bunny's already getting talked to by the like Aryan leader being like, yo, your boy kind of screwed us up. Like, how can we say like, how do we know for sure he didn't like, sell us out that this wasn't a trap? But Bunny's like, that's not Mike. Like, keep his name out your mouth, which I even love that even Mike told Evelyn that. It's like, you made a deal with my fucking name in your mouth. It's like, yeah, because it won't just fall back on you. It's going to fall back on me. And even Bunny told him last episode and multiple times this episode that it is going to hit close to home. And they're like, yeah, there's going to be a problem. And, Bunny tried to warn Mike that like, yeah, some people are pissed. And he's like, who specifically? But it's like, yeah, it isn't just the Aryan like leader. I think other people are pissed. The other gang leaders are probably pissed too and upset by it. Especially puts Bunny in a complicated position because everyone knows Mike is his boy. Which he's like, yo, we ain't boys until he gets me out of here. But it's like, yeah. I mean, especially for Bunny, it's like, he's like, I already went through this before, and I'm not, I mean, at least based on the conversation, and maybe I'm like reading that situation wrong, but he was implying like, yo, I've been through this before. I'm not about to go back. The point for me is my bed is supposed to be outside. I'm not about to be mixed up in this. It's like, well, get your second, like, your second person in charge to lead, but it's like the person you're having set up to be. He's like, no, I can't. They can't lead as long as I'm here because it looks weakish. I think if you have like your second in command taking charge when the big guy is here, it's like, so it's like Bunny has to be the one that takes point. So I guess maybe Kareem actually did ultimately do what he could do and slow rolled it, but there's probably still only so much he could do. Even he said it like, yeah, all I could do was like sign off on the people getting transferred, like, and keep the head count of it on. Like, that's about it. So, and by the time, and Mike gets a call by Bunny, but he gets got called away by the Stevie thing. And by the time he makes it to the tents, everyone's going. It's like, oh, we are severely fucked now, because it's like, yo, it's all about to pop off now, because for one, he also probably currently doesn't know where everyone landed, because it's a complicated thing of like, cool, you're being transferred to this particular place, probably going to make it even harder to get them out. At least them being at the tents made it easier. And now it's like, yeah, everything Mike was worried about, pandemonium is about to hit the streets yet again, and probably is going to be even worse than before. So Mike's stressing about that. Then you have the whole situation with Kyle, who went to visit Mitch, because it's like, yeah, he's kind of lost right now. It's like, yeah, Mike's giving me some work, but it's not really, like, I'm lost. Like, what am I supposed to do? I got a child, I got a, like, son on the way that I've named after you, and he's kind of lost right now and doesn't know what to do. So he actually went to Mike being like, hey, you need help, which he does. Because at the bare minimum, at least it was Mitch and Mike running things for a while. But obviously it's just been Mike handling everything, and there's once again too many fires, especially when you had an inferno like the riots spread so many fires around, and he's still doing everything he can. He's playing catch up at this point in time. Like, Mike has not been ahead for a while now. Like, once again, everything's boiled over, like, still trying to put out the fires, and every time he tries to, the fires are spreading, and it's like, well, what can you do? So having Kyle around might work. Your mom probably won't be too keen on him, like, working with you, and Tracy probably won't be too keen on that either, but it's like, hey, I'm here, I can help you out. So Mike is probably going to take Kyle up on that. In what capacity? Well, we'll ultimately have to wait and see. But like I said, there's also Milo and his bonds. It's just so much happening. And now after those transfers, because the tents are completely empty, so I don't know whether that got expedited, because it's like, yeah, like the buses were rolling in, sure, but it seemed like they were kind of slow rolling in, and for like the entire camp to be empty now, like it seemed like that felt like, oh, we're making, like, we're doing this big. Because that was also the thing too that Ian learned, is that any non-violent criminals are getting kicked out on the street, so that it can make more room for all the prisoners in the tent. So maybe that's why everything happened at a much faster rate, is because they were slow rolling it because they didn't have enough rooms to house everyone, but now they do. So maybe that's why they expedited. I mean, like, he was dealing with the Stevie thing for like 5 minutes, but who knows like how much out of his way towards the tents, going to see Stevie at the police station. Like, who knows how, like, out of his way he had to go see Stevie before trying to head back to the prisons and stuff. So it is definitely going to be really, really interesting to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and good